No one expected the war to begin with blood on bandages. The battlefield had rules. Even monsters respected those. For centuries, alien races had followed the ancient code. Never touch the wounded, never harm the medics. But on the third moon of Virelin 9, the rule was shattered in one brutal strike. Captain Layla Mercer stood beside the burnt remains of what had been a mobile medical shelter. Her fingers clenched around the strap of her rifle, but her weapon couldn't heal the pain. In her chest, bodies of doctors and nurses lay twisted in black ash. Some had never even touched a weapon. She had known their faces, names, stories. They had been healers. Behind her, a soldier vomited. The stench of melted plastic, scorched flesh, and burnt medical supplies filled the air. The medic camp had no guards, no turrets, no shields. It had been marked with the Universal Red Cross visible from orbit, a sign of peace, a place where wounded enemies and allies could be treated. But the Vrakkans didn't care. They had come in silence, no warning, no demands, just a coordinated strike, with plasma fire and neural disruptors. Layla had watched it all from a ridge nearby. Her squad had been on patrol, late by 6 minutes. 6 minutes, and now only smoking ruins remained. Back at base, her report was met with silence. Cold, hard silence. The kind that comes before a terrible decision. General Hawk stood in front of a large holomap, jaw clenched, his eyes unmoving. "Confirm it," he said without looking up. Layla swallowed hard. "They targeted the red zones, the triage tents. We found surgeons with their hands still gloved, their throats burned open." A long pause followed. Someone whispered, "That's a war crime." Another added, "The Vrakkans signed a truce pact. This is a direct violation." But it was more than that. It was a declaration. Earth hadn't started this war, but Earth would finish it. The next morning, a secure command order spread across all Terran channels. It didn't go public. No press release, no speeches. Just a string of black-coded commands. Clearance level, Ghost. Protocol number, 14X. They called it Protocol Hades. Inside a black site beneath the Siberian wastes, deep under a frozen mountain, steel doors opened for the first time in 100 years. A group of guards stood silent as 20 cryopods hissed and released vapor. The air smelled of ice, chemicals, and something darker. Something ancient. Inside those pods were not ordinary prisoners. They were Earth's ghost soldiers, specialists and weapons of the old wars. Each one locked away not because they failed, but because they had gone too far. Too deadly. Too uncontrollable. Sergeant Orion Vex stepped out first. His eyes opened slow, adjusting to the light. A scar ran down the side of his face like a bolt of lightning. Once he had led a mission that ended an entire rebellion by himself, alone. The cost? 3 cities and a shattered continent. Earth had hidden him away, frozen in stasis because killing him had been impossible. The others followed, men and women. Some human, some enhanced, some barely human anymore. One of the guards flinched as the final pod opened. A woman stepped out, tall, with dark synthetic armor fused into her skin. Her eyes glowed faintly red. She looked at the guard, smiled without warmth, and said nothing. General Hawk stood in front of them, backlit by the steel walls. "You were put away for a reason," he said. "Now you're being brought back for a reason." Vex tilted his head. "You're desperate," Hawk nodded. "They hit our medics." That silence again. But this time, it was different. No one asked questions. No one requested a briefing. These were not men and women who needed details. They understood something at the core. Some lines should never be crossed. A medic's cry was louder than a soldier's war scream. And to Earth's darkest warriors, that sound was a call to war. Within hours, ships launched from hidden bases. Stealth-class vessels. No broadcast signals. No warnings. The Vrakans would never see them coming. Back on Varela 9, Layla stood. With her squad, scanning the horizon. "Command says reinforcements are inbound," said Corporal Juno, wiping sweat from her brow. Layla looked up at the sky. "Not reinforcements," she muttered. "Revenge." In orbit above, shadows moved through the stars. Silent, precise, merciless. Humanity wasn't sending heroes this time. They were sending monsters, and the galaxy was about to remember why Earth was feared long before it was ever. LOVEDTHE Vrakans celebrated for 2 full cycles after the strike on Varela 9. Their leaders believed they had broken Earth's spirit. They shared images of burning medical tents across their networks. Their soldiers laughed at human weakness, mocking their laws and mercy. They thought they had shown the galaxy that Earth could bleed. They were wrong. On the far edge of Varela 9's gray wastelands, a silent craft touched down in the dead of night. No lights, no transmissions. It simply appeared black as a shadow and just as silent. It released no troops. Only one man stepped out, Sergeant Orion Vex. He wore no traditional armor, just a combat vest with enough room for knives, plasma darts, and a few dark tools even Earth didn't list anymore. His face showed no emotion. His footsteps made no sound. His orders were simple. No survivors among the war criminals. A nearby Vrakan outpost sat 20 miles from the drop zone. Inside, soldiers drank thick red ale and replayed recordings of their attack on the human medics. The base was lightly guarded. After all, humans rarely struck back so soon, especially not in the dark. Then the power cut out. At first, they thought it was a glitch. Then the air smelled of burning metal. A scream followed. The command center went dark as red emergency lights flickered. By the time backup arrived, 12 guards were dead, their weapons untouched, their throats cut with surgical precision. No bullet holes, no laser burns, just silence and death. One wall had a symbol scratched into it with a blade, a red cross with a line through it. Earth had sent a message. Back on the human side, Layla watched the reports come in through scrambled comms. The data was unconfirmed blurred photos, intercepted alien chatter, half-screamed Vrakan radio calls. But the words repeated again and again. "The Black Ghost is real." She turned to Juno. "Who is the Black Ghost?" Juno swallowed hard. "A legend, old Terran military myth. One man who takes down entire squads. They say he never speaks and never stops." Layla stared at the screen again. "He's not a myth anymore." In the Vrakan capital, generals gathered in panic. Their scientists had detected over a dozen similar landings across nearby systems. Each one small, stealth, silent, and each one followed by a trail of destruction. Not total war, not cities burning, targeted punishment. Vrakan commanders, field officers, scientists who designed the neural disruptors used on human medics. One by one, they disappeared. No battles, no large-scale attacks, just assassinations, sabotage, and fear. Then came the woman they called Shade. She arrived on Runtal 4, a planet known for its acidic rivers and floating cities. The city's defense chief, Kral Zen, had overseen the planning of the medical strike. He lived in a tower of glass and steel, surrounded by drones and elite guards. Shade entered through the roof. No alarms triggered. The drones fell from the sky. Security systems looped endlessly. When guards arrived, they found Kral Zen lying in his sleep chamber, eyes wide open, pulse gone. There were no wounds, no poison, just a single card left on his chest. It read, "For the healers." At Earth Command, General Hawk stood before a private screen showing black and white satellite captures of every mission. He said nothing. Just watched. An aide walked in. Sir, the United Galactic Assembly is demanding an explanation. They're calling our actions uncontrolled retaliation. Hawk finally spoke. Did they call it that when our doctors were burned alive? The aide looked away. Hawk nodded. Then, they'll understand silence. The monsters Earth had frozen were not soldiers anymore. They were weapons. Their mission wasn't just to kill. It was to remind the stars what humanity had hidden away. Layla's squad was assigned to follow up on the ghost operations. Secure cleared zones. Identify remains. She had expected horror. But what she found in those silent bases wasn't just death. It was fear. Vrakans had fled some posts mid-meal. Uniforms lay abandoned. Weapons untouched. Command terminals still. Glowing. Something worse than death had visited them. Something human. On one wall, she found words written in Vrakan blood. We were doctors. You made us killers. She stared at it, feeling the cold wind cut through her armor. Earth hadn't just responded. It had sent out its nightmares. And those nightmares were still just getting started. Whatever rules the galaxy thought still existed, they had just been rewritten. The Vrakans tried to strike back. Their war council, desperate and humiliated, ordered immediate retaliation across 3 sectors. They believed if they hit harder, Earth would back down. But Earth didn't respond with diplomats. It responded with silence and more shadows. In Sector 7K, a human prison ship once believed lost returned from deep space. It wasn't empty. It carried 2 of the oldest war criminals on record, Callan Rourke and Eva Kess. Rourke had once wiped out an entire alien fleet using nothing but an AI virus and 2 cargo drones. Eva was a former interrogator turned field executioner. She didn't ask questions twice. Both had been sentenced to cryo for life. Now, they were free again. Their drop zone was Corrales Prime, a fortified jungle world controlled by the Vrakans. A place of thick mist, twisting roots, and massive biotowers grown from living trees. Hidden deep in the forest was a Vrakan command center known for training elite assassin units. It had once been a rumor, a whisper among human spies. Rourke and Eva made it real. They didn't go in loud. They didn't fire a single shot. The jungle itself turned on the Vrakans. Power lines shorted. Training bots malfunctioned and exploded. Troop transports crashed into trees. At first, it seemed like nature was angry. Then they found Rourke's mark in old Earth military. Insignia burned into the side of a command tower. Below it, carved into the wood, was a phrase. This is for Dr. Hana killed while saving your wounded. It was a message. And a warning. The galaxy had forgotten what Earth kept buried. On Virelin 9, Layla's squad received new orders, search and rescue with secondary extraction. She expected to find injured soldiers or trapped civilians, but what they found shocked them. Hidden in a cave near the war zone was a young girl, no more than 10, sitting quietly beside a small medical drone. Her clothes were torn, her eyes wide with fear. She had been protecting the drone. Layla kneeled beside her. Hey, it's okay. We're here now. The girl whispered. They hurt the ones with the red mark. They laughed when they did it. Behind them, Juno stiffened. Layla looked at the drone. It was an old Earth model. One of the 8 bots assigned to refugee medical stations. A peaceful machine. It had blood on it. Layla stood up. Something shifted in her chest rage, cold and sharp. She radioed command. Tell them we found one of the field medbots. Still. Functional. She says the Vrakans attacked without warning. Command's voice replied, Copy. Mission log updated. There was no speech. No orders for vengeance, because vengeance had already been sent elsewhere. Sergeant Orion Vex arrived at a deep space mining colony held by Vracan loyalists. It wasn't on any star map. But Earth had eyes in places even the stars forgot. Miners worked slaves, mostly human refugees, too weak to fight back. When Vex entered the control center, the overseers didn't even have time to scream. He left a message carved into the wall, written in 3 languages. Touch our healers. Again, and Earth will send the ones even we fear. The message spread like fire. Across star systems, Vracan ships began pulling back. Colonies were abandoned. Commanders stopped answering calls. Their empire wasn't falling, it was rotting from the inside. Paranoia spread faster than any weapon. And still, Earth said nothing. No president gave a speech. No general claimed this attacks. No flags were planted, only silence. And shadows. In one galactic news station, a Vracan journalist said, "Humanity has unleashed ghosts. They don't come to fight, they come to punish." The broadcast was shut down mid-sentence. Back at Earth Command, General Hawk received a report. One of the cryo agents, Shade, had gone off mission. She had begun targeting Vracan scientists. Not involved in the medical strike. The line was thin, and she had crossed it. Hawk pressed a button on his desk. "Bring her in." The officer hesitated. "Sir, bringing her in may not be possible." Hawk didn't blink. "Try anyway." Even monsters needed rules. Meanwhile, Layla's team discovered something strange. A ruined Vracan ship left behind. After a retreat. Inside, they found a room with human medical supplies, stolen gear, clearly looted. But there was also something worse. A table, strapped to it, the body of a human field nurse, cybernetic parts removed, organs harvested. Juno looked away. They weren't just attacking medics. They were experimenting on them. Layla took a deep breath. "Tell command we found proof." She didn't say what they all felt. This wasn't a war anymore. This was a message written in blood, and the ones Earth had unleashed would keep writing it until the stars themselves remembered. What fear really looked like. The cold room inside Earth Command felt quieter than usual. General Hawk stared at the holoscreen, eyes locked on the red blinking icon. Shade had gone silent. No reports. No comms. And her tracker had been destroyed. He didn't need a report to understand what that meant. She was off the leash. Across the stars, Shade moved like a shadow with no name. She no longer followed mission lists. No longer answered to anyone. Somewhere between orders and vengeance, she had changed. Her target list had grown beyond the Vracans involved in the medic massacre. Now she was hunting anyone who had ever profited from human pain. On a floating trade station in neutral space, 6 wealthy arms dealers met to celebrate their growing profits. They had sold the disruptor weapons used against Earth's medical corps. They toasted with gold-rimmed glasses, laughing at the chaos they had helped cause. They never made it past desert. Shade came in through the ceiling. No sound, no mercy. One by one, they fell without firing a shot. The guards outside didn't even know they were dead until the doors opened the next morning. And all that remained were 6 clean bullet holes and a red cross spray-painted on the wall. The message was clear. No profit from pain. No safety in shadows. Back on Varela 9, Layla and her squad received new orders. Intercept fleeing Vracans attempting to leave the sector. The enemy wasn't attacking anymore. They were running, but Layla noticed something strange. As they chased down escape pods and abandoned cruisers, the Vracans weren't trying to fight. Most didn't even carry weapons. They were terrified of something else. One prisoner, barely alive, whispered as she was pulled from a wrecked pod. They said, "Earth woke the old ones, the sleeping ones." Layla frowned. What old ones? But the alien was already unconscious. Later, As Layla's squad moved through a crashed Vrakan carrier ship, they found dozens of empty crates once marked for medical gear. Inside, only fragments remained: syringes, surgical tools, and restraint. Cuffs. It wasn't a ship for war. It had been for kidnapping. Medical personnel taken, not killed. Juno stared at one open crate. This wasn't just about stopping medics. They were harvesting them. Layla's voice turned sharp. For what? Nobody answered. The squad forwarded the data to Earth Command. Within an hour, an encrypted reply came through. It was brief, confirming bioweapons research. Vrakans were using human medics for neural interface testing. High-level war crime confirmed. Continue operation. Layla's hands tightened. So they weren't just breaking the rules. They were turning our doctors into lab rats. And Earth had known all along. In a far-off corner of the galaxy, Sergeant Vex was sent to intercept a cargo freighter suspected of holding one of the lead scientists behind the experiments. The freighter never made it to its destination. No weapons were fired. It simply vanished. The next time it was found, it was floating in an asteroid field, powerless, silent. All the Vrakans aboard were dead. No external damage, no signs of forced entry. But the command logs had one final entry written in broken Vrakan. He was here, the one with the scar. We couldn't hide. He found us anyway. Earth Command didn't ask Vex for a report. They just cleared the case. Meanwhile, diplomatic channels buzzed across neutral space. Alien leaders demanded answers. Why was Earth using war criminals? Why had they gone silent? Why did no one from Earth respond? But Earth didn't answer. It didn't need to. The galaxy was already listening to the screams. Inside a quiet prison block beneath Earth's surface, one final cryopod remained locked. A man no one wanted to wake. He had no name, only a designation: Unit K09. Hawk stood in front of the frozen figure, his voice quiet. Not yet, he said. The aide beside him spoke carefully. Sir, with Shade going rogue and Vex moving unchecked. If we lose control, Hawk cut him off. You think we ever had control? He turned to walk away. These aren't soldiers. They're our punishment for letting medics die. Layla's squad continued clearing zones. Each time they found evidence: chains, surgical tools, blood-soaked uniforms. Her anger grew colder, sharper. They weren't fighting for territory anymore. They were recovering the dignity stolen from every healer who died screaming under alien knives. In the final hours of their mission that day, they uncovered one last message scratched into the wall of an abandoned Vrakan bunker. Written in dried human blood, it read, "We saved them. They tortured us for it." Layla stared at the message for a long time. Then she spoke quietly, mostly to herself. We're not the monsters. But deep down she wondered if that was still true. Because Earth had chosen to answer evil with something far worse than justice. It had chosen silence, and unleashed the ones who never forgot what it felt like to be betrayed. A cold wind blew across the wreckage of an old Vrakan field base, now overrun with vines and dust. Layla and her squad moved carefully through the ruins, flashlights sweeping across rusted machinery, collapsed shelters, and shattered bones. This wasn't just a battlefield. It was a graveyard. Juno stepped around a broken drone, her voice quiet. Sir, this place wasn't hit by weapons. It looks abandoned. Like they ran without even packing. Layla nodded slowly. Because they weren't just afraid of us. They were afraid of something following them. She pointed to the wall. A symbol was carved deep into the metal. Over and over again. A crude drawing. A circle with a vertical slash down the middle. The mark of Shade. She had been here. And judging by the number of symbols, she had been here for a while. One of the rookies whispered, "Why does she do that? Mark the walls?" Layla didn't answer at first. Then she said, to let us know the punishment has already been delivered. Elsewhere, in a ruined Vracan intelligence facility on the edge of the forest belt, Sergeant Vex stood over a console screen, wiping dust from its cracked surface. The AI interface flickered, barely alive. He inserted a small black chip into the port. The system lit up, pulling data from Vracan black sites across the galaxy. Vex scrolled through the logs. Names, images, coordinates. One folder caught his eye. Project Harvest. He opened a dot. Inside were files showing human medics captured alive. Not for ransom. Not for questioning. For testing. The Vracans had developed new pain response weapons. Devices meant to target empathy centers in the brain. Designed for species with high emotional intelligence. Like humans. Like doctors. Vex's jaw tightened. The final image showed a human nurse, eyes open, restrained to a chair. Her heart rate had flatlined mid-scan. She had died mid-sentence. The last line in the report said, "Subject failed to scream. During final phase, recommend tougher stock." Vex deleted the file. Then he burned the whole station down. Back on Earth, General Hawk stood in the Situation Room with a circle of senior commanders. No media, no politics. Just war. A screen in front of them showed a map of retreating Vracan forces. Their fleet was shrinking fast. Ships were abandoning outer colonies. Internal fighting had begun. Earth hadn't sent a single full army, and yet the Vracans were falling apart. "They're turning on each other," one admiral said. "Their high command is blaming the science division for starting this." Another added, "Reports say several Vracan commanders have committed suicide rather than be captured. Some even fear the ghosts will follow them home." Hawk looked at them all. "We didn't need a war, just proof." He brought up an image on the screen, a medical camp burning. Human corpses lined in rows, most unarmed. Now the galaxy knows what they did. The others nodded in silence. The war was changing. It wasn't about weapons or borders anymore. It was about fear. On a neutral moon once used as a Vracan safe zone, a group of diplomats met secretly. Word had spread that Earth might be willing to talk if certain war criminals were handed over. They wanted to negotiate before Earth's monsters found them, but the meeting never happened. Before the first word was spoken, all 12 Vracan diplomats were found in their quarters dead. Clean, fast. No signs of struggle. Only a message left on a datapad. "There is no deal for those who watch the medics burn." Layla's squad later found the remains of a mobile lab. Unlike the others, this one was still running. Inside was one survivor, a human, barely breathing. Hooked to machines, he had once been a medic stationed at Outpost Theta. The outpost was believed destroyed in the first wave. Layla pulled off her helmet, leaned close. "You're safe now, we've got you." The man's eyes fluttered open. Don't stop them." "Stop who?" she asked. "The ones you freed," he whispered. "Why?" His voice was weak, but clear, "Because they're not just punishing the guilty. They've forgotten who the enemy is." And then he passed out. That night, Layla sat beside the fire, staring at the stars. She remembered the names of every medic she had ever served with. People who had risked their lives to save both human and alien alike. People who believed mercy mattered. But now Earth had chosen revenge over mercy, and she feared that in trying to punish monsters, they had become something worse. Rain fell hard on the ruins of a forgotten moon outpost. Lightning cracked across the sky as Layla's squad moved silently through soaked debris and half-buried wreckage. They weren't hunting Vracans this time. They were looking for one of their own. Shade had been spotted nearby. Civilian reports from a mining camp said a woman in black armor had entered 3 nights ago. The next morning, 5 Vracan fugitives were found dead, and 2 neutral workers had gone missing, Command had issued a direct order. Bring her in alive. Layla hated the mission. Not because she feared Shade, though she did, but because deep inside she understood her revenge was easy to start and hard to stop. The squad split into pairs, sweeping through steel corridors and crumbling stone. Juno's voice came through the comms. Found something. Looks like a prisoner tag. Human. Still warm. Layla responded. Copy that. Everyone stay alert. She won't go down easy. They found her near the old reactor core. Shade stood still under the ruined ceiling, rain dripping down her black armor. Her eyes glowed faintly, unblinking. Her hands were stained red, but not with her blood. 2 bodies lay behind her. One was a known Vrakan torturer. The other was a human miner. Layla stepped forward. You crossed the line. Shade didn't turn. He was selling human organs to the Vrakans. You want proof? Layla hesitated. Even if that's true, he wasn't your mission. You were meant to stop the war criminals, not play judge and executioner. Shade finally turned, her voice calm. You think this is a war. It isn't. This is a memory. And I am the part that never forgets. A silence passed between them. Layla lowered her weapon but didn't step closer. If we keep doing this, if we kill without limits, then we're no better than them. Shade walked slowly toward her, stopping just a few feet away. Then don't be like me, she said. But don't try to stop me either. She turned and walked into the shadows. Layla didn't follow. Back at Earth. Command, General Hawk reviewed the footage from Layla's helmet cam. The screen flickered as Shade disappeared into the dark. She let them live, the aide noted. No, Hawk replied. She let them choose. That's more dangerous. The aide hesitated. What if she won't come back in? Hawk looked down at the secure command list. Unit K09's cryo chamber was still locked. But not for long. If she keeps going off course, we'll need someone who can stop her. The aide paled. K09? Sir, he doesn't follow rules. He doesn't even care about revenge. Hawk nodded. Exactly. He only understands control. Meanwhile, in a hidden Vrakan lab discovered by Sergeant Vex, the true depth of Project Harvest was revealed. The lab had been buried under an artificial ocean, hidden for decades. Inside were hundreds of human organs stored in cryotanks, hearts, lungs, even full spinal units, each one tagged with the name of a medic. Vex stared at the walls in silence. His fingers hovered over the detonator in his hand. A recorded Vrakan voice played from the wall speakers. This pain tech will make the galaxy fear compassion. It will erase weakness from the stars. Vex pressed the button. The lab exploded, taking everything with it. Later, he sent one simple message to Earth. Command, I've seen enough. No more games. Let me finish this. Command never replied. They didn't have to. Across the galaxy, Vrakans began surrendering. Not to Earth, but to anyone who would take them. Many begged to be sent to neutral systems anywhere Earths. Ghosts wouldn't follow, but the ghosts didn't stop. Layla sat in a dark briefing room, reviewing the mission logs. Every report made her chest feel heavier. One line in particular stood out. Subject Vex terminated 3 scientists under full surrender protocol. She slammed her hand on the table. This isn't how we do things. Juno looked at her carefully. Then why did Command send them in the first place? Layla didn't answer, because she already knew. Earth hadn't sent the war. Criminals to win the war. They sent them to send a message. If you violate our mercy, you will meet our monsters. Now the monsters were rewriting the rules. Layla looked up at the stars outside the window. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was watching. Not Earth soldiers. Not its fleets. But its rage. And rage didn't stop when the job was done. Only stopped when there was nothing left to burn. The last stronghold of the Vraken stood on a dying planet called Droktel, once a rich colony world, now stripped of life by its own war machines. Black clouds covered the sky. Poison storms rolled over rusted towers. No one lived there anymore. Only the guilty remained. They had gathered in fear, hiding behind defense grids and poison gas. Generals, scientists, command officers, all those responsible for the attack on Earth's medics. Their last hope was the silence of distance, but distance could not protect them, because Earth had just unlocked K-09. In a dark facility buried beneath Antarctica. The final cryopod hissed and cracked. Inside stood a man or something close to. One tall, scarred, and silent. His body was full of metal implants, some so old they no longer matched any system. His eyes didn't blink. His heart barely registered a beat. His mind had been broken long ago in another war, in another time, but he followed orders. The only word on his mission file, containment. Earth had only released him once before. The result was wiped from history. Now. General Hawk stood before him with one command: finish it. K-09 was dropped on Droktal without backup, without communication, without hope of recovery. He didn't need hope. Within minutes of landing, the defense grid failed. Surveillance systems blinked and died. Poison storms vanished into silence. The Vrakens inside the stronghold tried to run, but they didn't get far. The ones who attacked the medics were marked, and K-09 hunted only the marked dot from orbit. Layla watched through satellite feed. Her squad had been sent as Overwatch, but no one had expected what they were seeing now. Buildings collapsed with no explosives. Alarms howled and then went quiet. Something moved through the compound like smoke unseen, unstoppable. Then silence. Juno whispered, Is he even human? Layla shook her head. He used to be. Hours passed before the signal came in. A single message, audio only. All targets neutralized. Droktel is silent. Earth Command received it. General Hawk said nothing. He didn't look satisfied. He didn't even look proud. He simply turned off the screen. The war was over. No official peace treaty was signed. No flag was raised. The Vrakens simply stopped fighting. Their empire fell apart from the inside out of fear, out of shame, out of the guilt they could no longer deny. Across the galaxy, stories spread like wildfire. Stories of what Earth had done, not with fleets or weapons, but with ghosts, not with monsters. The United Galactic Assembly tried to open discussions with Earth, asked if the criminals would be re-imprisoned, if Earth would return to peacekeeping. Talks. Earth responded with silence, and the galaxy got the message. Back on Varela 9, Layla visited the ruins of the first Metacamp one last time. Flowers had started to grow where ash once lay. The soil had begun to heal. She placed her rifle down beside a bent medical tag, one that belonged to Dr. Hana. The first name on the lost list. She whispered, "We didn't forget." They paid the price. Behind her, Juno waited. "It's over, Captain. Orders say we're going home." Layla looked up at the sky. "Are we still the good guys, Juno?" The younger soldier hesitated. "We're alive." "Maybe that's enough for now." They boarded their ship in silence. Elsewhere, Sergeant Vex sat in a quiet room with no lights, only a screen playing old medical records, lists of medics who had died protecting soldiers like him. He turned it off and spoke into the dark. "I'm done." His tracker went dark. Earth Command didn't try to find him. They knew better. Shade was last seen on a jungle moon, handing out stolen medicine to starving alien children. She left no survivors where war criminals were found. But she didn't harm the innocent. Her own kind of justice had formed twisted but sharp. And K-09? No one ever found him again. Some say he returned to Cryo. Others say he never left Droktal, that he watches the ruined world like a forgotten god. What mattered was that the galaxy learned something they had forgotten. Earth does not start wars, but it never forgets those who harm the ones who heal. Red Cross may have once meant peace, but now, to the Vrakans and every species beyond, it meant something else. Harm the healers, and the humans will come. Not with armies, but with punishment. And punishment never sleeps.